I'm talking with Dr. Sid Thakur, who is with the College of Veterinary Medicine at North Carolina State University, and talking about antibiotic resistance and resistant pathogens in livestock and some of the research that you've been involved in. Some very interesting research looking at the prevalence of some of these pathogens in the animals and in the environment, kind of across production stages. So I wonder if you could just summarize some of the key points, what you've done with that research and what you found.
Yes, so what we have seen is that the environment plays a very important role in this transmission of pathogens between the animals and back into the environment. We tend to always focus on the commodity, so we always talk about what has been shed by the animal, whether it's a pig or a broiler or whether it's a cattle, and we never focus on what is out there in the environment. And so my research has really shown that the environment plays a very important role. The same drug-resistant strains that you find in the animals are also there in the environment. And irrespective of whether you expose these animals to antimicrobials or not, whether it's for prophylaxis or growth promotion, we have seen that it really doesn't make any difference. These animals, if they're not exposed to antimicrobials, will still shed drug-resistant strains if those drug-resistant strains are also there in the environment.
And you found some of these strains in later production stages, both in environments at the farm, but also in some of the transportation and on into the packing plant.
Yes, and so again, we focused on the specific dynamics of these pathogens in individual environments. So we looked at the farm environment population dynamics, and we looked at the processing plant environmental dynamics, and we found out that these are very distinct populations of the same pathogen existing on the farm, and then very different from what we find at the slaughter plant. And so what we found out is that the processing plant population is very dominant population, and whatever the farm population that the animal brings with itself to the plant, the slaughter plant population completely overwhelms the farm population, and that's what you're ultimately finding in the product. So it's a very interesting dynamics and going on between the same species of the pathogen.
What are some of the implications for, say, the veterinarians who are working on these operations and using the antibiotics as they're needed? And is there anything that they can read from this research that might help guide some of their decisions?
Well, I mean, really continue doing the fantastic job that they're doing. You know, you use the antimicrobials judiciously, which they do, and follow the CVM FDA's directions on how to use. And but the key things is, as far as controlling the pathogens is concerned, yes, I mean, maybe look at more specific as to what type of strain they are dealing with. You know, it could be a different strain of Salmonella on the farm, whereas the packing plant, it could be a completely different strain of the same species. You know, so the dynamics could be different depending on how these pathogens react to different antibiotics. So a farm population may be resistant to different antibiotics or susceptible to different antibiotics, whereas the processing plant population may be susceptible to different types of antibiotics. You know, so keep those things in mind when you really go around to tackle these different pathogens. Again, moving from a very generalized approach to more specific approach.